Hello, I'm Michael, and I reside in Dallas, Texas. The city is vast, vibrant, and perpetually in motion. A vibrant environment filled with endless activities, ensuring that boredom is a rarity. It's a place that keeps its pace, refusing to yield even when you wish it would. I appreciate it that way, however. I flourish in this kind of environment. The bustling life of the metropolis. That's what adds to the thrill. Small towns aren't really my preference. I suppose I embody the essence of urban life, perpetually in flux, constantly balancing various pursuits. Allow me to share a little about myself. At 26, I find myself navigating life as a single individual. Currently, I find myself without a spouse, children, or a partner. I understand it may come across as a bit solitary when spoken aloud, yet I've grown accustomed to it. It's not that I lack the desire for a family in the future. I haven't quite unraveled that one yet. Regarding my career and daily routine, I'm focused on ensuring that my life is in order before I consider investing my energy in another person. It's not that I'm resistant to the concept. I sense it approaching eventually, perhaps when the time feels right. For the time being, it's solely my presence. Living the bachelor life is certainly a blend of ups and downs. On certain days, it seems like liberation. I am not obligated to respond to anyone. I act on my own terms, whenever I choose. Yet, there are moments when solitude creeps in. I'm not referring to solitude in a physical sense, but rather in an emotional context. I'm confident that many unattached men can identify with this. As you glance about, you notice individuals surrounded by their loved ones. Individuals who have that special someone waiting for them at home each evening. And you ponder, wow, that would be lovely. Yet, I find solace in the thought that I am crafting my own journey. When the moment arrives, I will be prepared to establish my roots. I need to concentrate on my current position and my future direction. Reflecting on my current situation, my profession. I am employed at a company led by an individual named Mr. Robinson. He is in his early 50s. And let's just say he's not the kind of leader who tolerates laziness. He's formidable, stern, and rarely shows a smile. However, I genuinely hold him in high regard. He has his methods. Though they may present challenges, their effectiveness is undeniable. He maintains strict control, and it's hard to dispute that. He's not someone to take lightly. As long as you perform your duties correctly, he will not bother you. Honestly, that's all I truly desire. I don't require a close friendship with my boss. I simply have to be present, complete my tasks, and then head home. What stands out the most about being there? The compensation. I'm not exactly swimming in money. However, it certainly surpasses many of the other positions I've held. The advantages are quite favorable as well. I have good health insurance, and that's quite significant. Despite Mr. Robinson's tough demeanor, the salary certainly compensates for it. I've held positions that compensated me with less than 50% of my current earnings. I'm simply expressing my thoughts. Despite his occasional irritations, I genuinely value his leadership in a company that offers competitive pay and prioritizes efficiency. Let's shift our focus away from work. Let's discuss something that has turned into a bit of a routine for me. Sundays. My singular true day of rest. Though my schedule is often packed, I always carve out Sundays as my personal time. It's the sole day I can truly exhale. I've established a routine that aids me in maintaining organization. Each Sunday, I make my way to the supermarket. That seems rather dull, doesn't it? But truly, it has woven itself into the fabric of my weekly routine. After a long day at work, I simply can't squeeze in time for shopping during the week. The bustling crowds in the stores leave me feeling drained. On Sunday mornings or afternoons, you can always find me at the store. I'll gather all my groceries for the week, ensuring I have everything necessary to sustain myself for the upcoming days. It may lack glamour, yet it gets the job done. My motivation is straightforward. It's significantly more effective. On a typical weeknight, I find myself acquiring items that aren't really necessary. Everything is driven by impulse purchases. Honestly, it often turns out to be pricier than it ought to be. On Sundays, I always have a strategy in place. I have a clear understanding of my goals, and I remain committed to them. I avoid aimlessly roaming through aisles, and I certainly don't squander my money. I have a list, and that's sufficient for me. Moreover, preparing dinner becomes a breeze when your fridge is stocked with all the essentials. You might be astonished at the amount of time you can conserve by approaching tasks in this manner. Food doesn't even cross my mind during the week. I simply take what I require, warm it up, and continue on my way. It's straightforward, yet effective. It spares me the inconvenience of frequent trips to the store, which can be quite bothersome. It's simply more efficient to tackle everything all at once. That sums up my recent experiences quite well. Tasks, errands, refresh, repeat. I have my established routine, my sense of independence, and I find a good deal of contentment in it. Yet, I was unaware that everything was on the brink of transformation. And not due to any significant life occurrence. This was entirely unforeseen. An element that would disrupt the status quo in the most delightful manner. It all began on a Sunday as I made my way home from the store. The trunk was filled with groceries as I drove down the road toward my apartment, just another ordinary weekend in Dallas. Suddenly, something unexpected captured my gaze. A vehicle stands idle by the roadside, its hood ajar, revealing the inner workings beneath. I eased my pace, narrowing my eyes for a clearer view. And that was the moment I laid eyes on her. It was Olivia, the daughter of Mr. Robinson. To be honest, I was quite surprised to find her here, of all places. I was familiar with her from the office, but we didn't really socialize beyond work hours. We had crossed paths on a few occasions. Mr. Robinson requested my assistance with various office tasks from time to time. She possessed intelligence, professionalism, and undoubtedly had that quality. Well, let's just say, she was quite organized. However, my understanding of her was quite limited. I simply fulfilled my responsibilities, and she attended to hers. That was the end of it. Yet, there she stood, beside her car, an expression of concern etched across her features. "Hey, Michael," she exclaimed, gesturing enthusiastically in my direction. Uncertainty gripped me as I weighed the decision to pull over or continue on my way, yet the way she uttered my name compelled me to halt. I parked my car and let the fresh air in by rolling down the window. "Is everything all right?" I inquired. "Well, I've encountered a minor issue with my car," she remarked with a chuckle, casting a glance at the open hood. "The engine refuses to turn over, and the tow truck is still an hour away. I have this meeting I must attend, and I'm feeling a bit trapped. Would you be able to offer me a lift?" For a brief moment, I paused. It wasn't precisely part of my agenda for the day, yet I was aware of who Olivia was, and, of course, she happened to be Mr. Robinson's daughter. This might be an excellent opportunity to earn some favor with him. After a brief internal discussion, I gave a nod. "Absolutely, of course. I will accompany you." I never anticipated it would mark the beginning of something transformative. I believed it was merely a straightforward request. However, as I mentioned, there are moments when circumstances shift in unforeseen ways. And this was merely the start. I drove Olivia home, engaging in light conversation as we traveled. To be honest, I wasn't very familiar with her at all. She was the daughter of Mr. Robinson, yet I never truly had the opportunity to connect with her on a personal level. All I knew was that she was about 19 or 20, a few years younger than me, and she was undeniably beautiful. Truly stunning. Not the ordinary kind of pretty you encounter daily, but rather that captivating kind of beauty. She possessed an athletic physique, as if she had dedicated her life to training in the gym. Her hair flowed long and blonde, impeccably styled to perfection. Her skin radiated a warm tan, and her eyes exuded a subtle yet undeniable confidence. She appeared to be someone fully aware of her own power, and likely the power she held over everything else in her vicinity as well. I've always been the type who remains focused and undistracted by appearances, yet I can't deny that I've noticed them. She possessed an undeniable aura. She entered the room without drawing a single glance. Nevertheless, I refused to allow that to influence my behavior towards her. I had no intention of changing my behavior simply because she was attractive, particularly given that she was the boss's daughter. That could turn awkward quickly, and I had no intention of creating any discomfort. As we drove, Olivia began to share a bit more of herself. She shared that her upbringing was quite strict. It seems her father had a reputation for being tough not only in the workplace. He exhibited the same demeanor at home as well. She remarked that he was perpetually scrutinizing her, always dictating her actions, ensuring she remained fixated on what lay ahead, compelling her to tread the path he had set. She mentioned that he wanted me to take over the company someday, her gaze fixed on the window as if she were attempting to deliver the news nonchalantly, yet it was clear that it troubled her. I'm feeling quite overwhelmed, to be honest. Her frustration was evident in the way she expressed herself about it. She appeared to be someone yearning for a moment to exhale, to carve out her own path, yet it was evident that her father's aspirations for her life were an inescapable shadow. He has a strategy laid out for me. I understand. There are moments when I long for the freedom to navigate my own path. She let out a soft sigh, leaning her head gently against the window. It feels as though he's constantly observing my every move. He is aware of my outings and social gatherings with friends. It feels as though I can never truly express my authentic self. Initially, I found myself at a loss for words. Her circumstances seemed quite challenging. Few individuals experience such intense pressure. It's hard to fathom having a parent who sought to dictate every single aspect of my existence. Yet, I suppose each person faces their own struggles, and hers simply took a different form than my own. After a moment of reflection, I chose to reveal a glimpse of my personal journey. Absolutely, I understand that. I find myself in a rather challenging situation as well. I remarked, attempting to maintain a cheerful tone. I may not bear the weight of inheriting a business, yet I find myself lacking the things that others possess. Well, you know, just a kid from a family, things like that. I'm navigating this on my own, and it's a bit of an unusual situation for me. Not quite in a relationship. Not quite anchored in any one place. It can be quite challenging, you know? She inclined her head in agreement. I understand. Well, I suppose I'm fortunate not to have to concern myself with those kinds of things. Yet, it feels as though no matter my efforts, they never seem to satisfy him. We continued our conversation about life and the myriad of things that often veered off course. It began with a simple exchange, yet somehow, it evolved into a moment of vulnerability, revealing a part of yourself you hadn't intended to share. When we arrived at her place, I noticed she seemed a bit more at ease than she had been at the beginning of our drive. As we arrived at the building, I parked the car and stepped out to open her door. She offered a smile, one that appeared slightly uncertain yet filled with gratitude. I appreciate the ride, Michael. Your kindness means a lot to me. Her voice carried a sincerity that caught me off guard. As she exited the car, she leaned in, planted a swift kiss on my cheek, and remarked, "You're a lifesaver." To be honest, I was taken by surprise. While I was accustomed to friendly gestures, there was something uniquely different about the way she expressed it. Not in a negative sense, merely surprising. I was uncertain if it held any significance, yet I didn't dwell on it extensively. I merely nodded and offered a smile. Absolutely, I'm here whenever you need me. With a gentle motion, she shut the door and offered a wave as she entered the building. I lingered for a moment, gazing at the place where she vanished. I found myself at a loss, unsure of how to interpret it. The journey home that evening felt strange. The kiss Olivia placed on my cheek lingered in my thoughts, refusing to fade away. It was merely a kind gesture, wouldn't you agree? A heartfelt expression of gratitude. Yet, there was an element of it that felt off to me. Was it merely gratitude, or was there something deeper at play? I was unable to find a solution. The moment kept echoing in my mind. I had to acknowledge, it felt unlike any other gratitude I had ever encountered. Many individuals simply express gratitude, perhaps with a handshake or a brief nod. Yet, the manner in which she approached it? I'm uncertain. It stayed with me. Well, she's the daughter of the boss. She would never engage in anything that might be perceived as overstepping boundaries, would she? She appeared to be the type of individual who exuded confidence, always measured in her actions. What could possibly motivate her to behave that way if there wasn't a purpose behind it? I shook my head, attempting to banish it from my thoughts. Perhaps I was delving too deeply into my thoughts. Nothing particularly significant had occurred. Yet, it lingered in my mind. Long after I returned home, as I moved through my daily routine, thoughts of Olivia lingered in my mind, her gaze, the warmth of her smile when she expressed her gratitude. Was I overanalyzing it? A full week went by, and despite my efforts to concentrate on my tasks and simply navigate the days, the memories of that kiss and its potential implications kept intruding on my mind. To be honest, I make an effort not to linger on it, yet it seemed as though an unspoken tension lingered in the atmosphere. On a Monday morning, as I entered the office, I spotted Olivia by my desk, her smile radiating in that familiar way. "Hey, Michael," she said, her voice airy, yet tinged with an underlying depth. I found it difficult to pinpoint. "Do you have a moment?" "Absolutely, of course." "Hello there," I responded, attempting to keep it light, yet a hint of anxiety was creeping in. She surveyed the office, ensuring that she was alone. She paused for a moment, then said, "I have a somewhat unusual request. Would you happen to have an hour to spare after work today?" "I require transportation." I arched an eyebrow. "Would you like a lift?" That took me by surprise. All week, she had occupied my thoughts, and now, unexpectedly, she was standing before me, requesting a ride. I chose not to dwell on it too much, so I maintained my composure. "Absolutely, I have the time to spare." "What's happening?" She appeared to be at ease, yet I noticed a hint of tension in her shoulders. "Unfortunately, my car remains at the repair shop. While I could summon a taxi or an Uber, I find myself reluctant to take that route. And I prefer not to reach out to my dad's drivers either. It's somewhat of an inconvenience. The most recent occasion they took me somewhere, it felt quite uncomfortable. Everyone seems to maintain such a formal demeanor around me. I just want a straightforward ride, you know? If you have some time, I would really appreciate it if you could accompany me to the salon. It's just a short distance away." I paused to reflect on it for a moment. The drive wasn't particularly lengthy, and she was merely requesting a small favor. Additionally, we had a good rapport during our previous encounter. Surely, there was nothing wrong with it, was there? Merely a journey. Nothing else. "Absolutely, that works for me," I replied with a casual shrug. "Absolutely fine. At what hour would you prefer to depart?" Her smile revealed a sense of relief. "Thank you. Your kindness means a lot to me. What do you think of 6? Post-work?" "That sounds promising," I responded. "I will remain present." She nodded, her gaze lingering on mine for a moment longer than expected. And I couldn't help but observe the subtle glimmer in her expression. Was it only me? Or was she displaying an unusual level of friendliness today? Perhaps it was insignificant. Perhaps I was still dwelling on the entire kiss situation from the other day. I found myself pondering deeply. The remainder of the workday felt interminable, yet the idea of taking Olivia to the salon persisted in the recesses of my thoughts. The experience transcended the mere act of writing. It was about the opportunity to engage with her once more, to discover if the bond we shared during our previous discussion remained intact. I tried to keep my expectations in check, yet there was an undeniable excitement brewing within me. As the clock struck 6, I wrapped up a few final tasks and made my way to the parking lot. As I was about to step into my car, Olivia emerged from the building, clad in a chic ensemble that seemed far too fashionable for a mere trip to the salon. She noticed me and gave a friendly wave. "Hey, Michael," she reached out, and I responded with a wave. We climbed into the car and set off in the direction of the salon. The journey was smooth. The dialogue unfolded effortlessly, reminiscent of our previous encounter, yet there was a delicate change in the atmosphere surrounding us. She seemed less remote than her usual self at work. She appeared to be at ease, more receptive. During our conversation, she expressed her frustration about depending on her dad's associates for everything. Sometimes, she expressed, it feels as though I'm being treated like a child. I simply desire to have my own freedom, you understand? I acknowledged, grasping deeper truths than I revealed. I understand that. It can be challenging when others attempt to dictate your path, yet at times, it feels simpler to acquiesce. She gazed out the window for a moment, contemplating, yes, I suppose, but I refuse to be trapped in that existence indefinitely. I want to pursue my own path, rather than being confined to managing a business simply because it's my father's desire. It seemed as though she was beginning to lower her defenses, and I could perceive a fragility that had previously escaped my attention. I was uncertain whether to encourage her to open up further or to simply allow her to share at her own pace. Yet, it was refreshing to listen to her reflections, to sense that perhaps, just perhaps, she wasn't solely focused on treading the path laid out by her father. As we arrived at the salon, she glanced at me and offered a warm smile. Thank you once more for this, Michael. Your kindness means a lot to me. A grin in return, aiming to maintain a laid-back vibe. Absolutely fine. At any moment. She paused briefly, as though contemplating another response, but ultimately nodded and exited the vehicle. I drove away, the memory of the journey and our dialogue echoing in my thoughts. This was becoming quite intriguing. As I arrived at my apartment and parked the car, I reached for the lock when something unusual caught my eye in the back seat. A tiny scrap of paper, partially concealed beneath the passenger seat. Initially, I considered that it might have slipped from Olivia's bag earlier. I hadn't noticed it when I dropped her off, but now it was there, quietly lingering, eager to be acknowledged. With a sense of intrigue, I swung the door open and snatched the paper. I opened it with great reluctance, hesitant to confront the contents within. A part of me had foreseen something like this, yet the words inscribed on the note took me by surprise. Olivia's handwriting was unmistakable, crisp and tidy, conveying a straightforward message. Reach out if you're confident enough to handle my dad. Olivia. I lingered in my seat, the paper clutched in my hands, attempting to digest the words I had just encountered. What was the significance of this? Was she jesting, or was there a deeper significance lurking beneath the surface? My thoughts surged with endless potential. This might pose a risk, wouldn't it? She was the boss's daughter, and any involvement with her could lead to disastrous consequences. Yet, there was an undeniable quality about her, a uniqueness that compelled me to embrace the risk. I gazed at the note for what felt like an eternity. I found myself at a loss regarding how to proceed with it. It seemed as though a boundary had been breached, as if we were venturing into unknown realms. Yet, she had indeed handed me the note. She had initiated the first step, albeit in a nuanced manner. After what seemed like an eternity, I chose to take action. By the time I finally reached for my phone, it was almost 11 p.m. I was uncertain about her reaction, yet I knew I couldn't simply overlook it. I entered her number into the dialer, my heart racing in anticipation as I awaited her response. After several rings, her voice finally came through. Greetings. Hello, Olivia. I remarked, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor despite the rising tension within me. My name is Michael. Oh, hello, Michael, she remarked, her tone carrying a hint of surprise yet filled with joy. Your call took me by surprise. I understand, I noticed your note. I remarked, as I rubbed my face. I decided to seize the opportunity. Her laughter was gentle, and it sent a subtle jolt through my being. To be honest, I had my doubts about whether you would. I considered that you might view it as overly bold. The uncertainty in her voice was palpable. I wasn't certain initially, I confessed, but here we find ourselves. There was a moment of silence before she began to speak once more. I'm pleased you reached out. I found myself questioning whether I was being too transparent. However, at times, it's simply more straightforward to express it rather than let uncertainties linger. I reclined in my chair, making an effort to maintain a cheerful atmosphere. I'm pleased to hear that. You've been on my mind as well since we last spoke. It was pleasant. She hesitated briefly, and I sensed she was considering her words with great care. I've been pondering it as well. I found myself uncertain about my desires. However, I believe I have come to an understanding now. Indeed. I inquired, my heart racing with anticipation. Indeed, she murmured gently. I was considering the possibility of us meeting this weekend. Sometimes, it's nice to take a break from the daily grind. Only we remain. It might be enjoyable. I could hardly fathom the words that reached my ears. Did she express a desire to meet? Was she really serious? That sounds wonderful, I replied, making an effort to mask the thrill in my tone. Where would you like to venture? She mentioned a quaint little restaurant in the city that I was quite familiar with. It wasn't overly extravagant, but it had its charm. The perfect atmosphere for the unfolding events. What about that place? She inquired. Would you be able to give me a ride? I'm not particularly in the mood to drive. A smile crept across my face, a rush of excitement coursing through me at the thought of the invitation. Absolutely, I'll come and get you. At what hour? She provided a time frame and we settled on the specifics. I ended the call, my mind still sifting through the dialogue. This had evolved beyond mere friendly conversation. There was an undeniable change occurring in our dynamic. The boundaries had faded, and clarity emerged. This had transformed into something far beyond a mere journey or a light-hearted chat. Upon reflection, it became clear to me that this marked the beginning of something greater. Perhaps it was premature to label it as something significant, yet the connection was unmistakable. The weekend was finally here, and I found myself enveloped in that familiar blend of anticipation and anxiety. It felt unusual to encounter Olivia in a context far removed from our usual professional environment. Upon my arrival at the restaurant, the sight of her waiting for me brought an immediate sense of everything falling into place. She appeared even more breathtaking than she typically does. Her eyes shimmered with an elusive quality I couldn't fully identify. Yet, it was clear that we both experienced something deeper than a mere casual bond. The evening unfolded with conversation, laughter, and the exchange of stories. It flowed effortlessly with her. It was a moment free from stress, devoid of any facade. It felt as though we had shared a lifetime of experiences. As the night unfolded, I sensed the tension dissipating, as if we were harmonizing in a manner I had never felt before. Following our meal, we strolled outside, and that was when she spoke those words. Michaels, I'm truly pleased that this occurred. Olivia spoke, her tone gentle yet confident. I sense a shared feeling between us, as if destiny has woven our paths together in this remarkable way. It's intriguing how my car broke down that day, and you happened to be right there. It feels like there's more to it than mere chance. I gazed at her, uncertain if my ears were deceiving me. Could it be that she was actually saying that? The warmth of her genuine smile illuminated everything for me, bringing clarity to the moment. I share that sentiment. I remarked, moving a step nearer to her. It feels as though our paths were destined to cross, don't you think? Her gaze mellowed, and she inhaled deeply. My feelings for you, Michael, go beyond mere friendship, and I desire to share more moments together. I understand it might sound wild, but I genuinely have feelings for you. In that instant, it seemed as though all the pieces fell into place. We had transcended the realm of a simple outing. There was an underlying essence, a presence we simply couldn't overlook. It transcended mere physical attraction. It was an undeniable truth, a longing we both shared without fully understanding. The remainder of the night was filled with conversation and wandering, as we delved into a connection that transcended the superficial. It seemed as though we inhabited a unique realm, and it was simply flawless. As the month progressed, our connection began to feel increasingly effortless. We dedicated our weekends to each other, enjoying movies, dining out, and strolling through the city. It was irrelevant what activity we engaged in, as long as we shared the experience side by side. There were even nights when Olivia would spend the night at my place. We would rise together, prepare a meal, and relish in the tranquility of Sunday mornings, simply savoring the joy of being in each other's presence. I sensed that we were evolving into something deeper than a mere casual encounter. We were a pair. One evening, as we lounged on my couch after a long day, Olivia turned to me with a familiar expression that spoke volumes. She appeared somewhat reluctant, as if she were mustering the bravery to express something significant. "Michael," she started, her voice gentle. "I've been reflecting on our connection. And I believe I'm starting to fall for you." My heart raced with unexpected excitement. Listening to her articulate those words felt simultaneously dreamlike and flawless. I gazed into her eyes, probing for any trace of uncertainty, yet found none. It was genuine, and I could sense it as well. "I share that sentiment," I responded, drawing her nearer to me. "I've been falling for you as well." In an instant, the world transformed. It had evolved beyond mere enjoyment or a way to fill the hours. It was about creating something genuine, something that resonated deeply. We were both succumbing to the magic of love, and the awareness of it lingered between us. In the weeks that followed, we found ourselves spending even more time in each other's company. We were bound together, unbreakable. We longed to stay together. There were moments when Olivia would stay over during the week, and it seemed as though our lives were gradually intertwining. We had evolved beyond being just a weekend couple. We were always a couple. As the weeks passed, a sense of gratitude washed over me. Thankful for the unexpected encounter. For the manner in which destiny had woven its enchantment. And most importantly, for Olivia. Her laughter, her smile, the way she illuminated every moment. It certainly had its flaws. We experienced our share of disagreements and moments filled with uncertainty. Yet, as I gazed upon her, I realized that this moment, whatever it entailed, held immense value. Our connection transcended mere coincidence. We were destined to cross paths. We were creating something genuine, and that was the only thing that truly counted. All had unfolded flawlessly. Our connection flourished in ways I never anticipated. Each weekend, every fleeting moment seemed like a page from a storybook. Olivia and I had developed a connection that transcended mere physical attraction. We were deeply engaged on an emotional level. And I couldn't shake the sensation that everything was aligning perfectly. Yet, existence, genuine existence, has a tendency to present unexpected challenges at the most unforeseen moments. The journey began with a simple phone call. One afternoon at work, my phone suddenly rang. The number shown was that of Mr. Robinson. My stomach churned with anxiety. I had been acquainted with him long enough to understand that a call from him was not something I could overlook. "Michael, come to my office immediately," he commanded, his tone icy and abrupt. My heart plummeted. I was completely in the dark about this. Yet, an unsettling intuition gnawed at me, suggesting it was linked to Olivia and myself. I made the most of my time. Hastily gathering my belongings, I headed towards his office. Upon entering, I found myself paralyzed. Olivia stood beside her father, her complexion wan and her eyes swollen from tears. The atmosphere in the room was charged, and I sensed the impending gravity of the moment. Mr. Robinson bypassed any unnecessary niceties. His voice cut through the air, filled with accusation as he locked his gaze onto mine. "I am aware of you as well," he remarked, his voice chillingly cold. "I'm aware of the moments you've been sharing beyond the workplace. I possess all knowledge. This will not come to pass. I tolerated your relationship for far too long, but I refuse to accept it any longer. Can you hear me?" I begin to speak, but he interrupts me, his voice rising in volume. "Mikey, your employment has been terminated. Your presence is no longer desired in this company, and opportunities for meaningful employment in this city will elude you from now on." It's unlikely that anyone will consider bringing you on board after your recent actions. The weight of the world bore down upon me. My breath hitched, and my thoughts spiraled in a whirlwind. Dismissed? For what purpose? For cherishing his daughter? Was that truly such an offense? Yet, that was not the conclusion. Olivia, previously silent with her arms crossed tightly, suddenly broke the stillness, her voice quivering with frustration. Father, this situation feels unjust. I have grown up. I am 20 years old. I have reached an age where I can determine my own choices. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. I have deep feelings for him, and you cannot dictate how I live my life in this matter. Mr. Robinson's expression grew stern, his fury igniting. You will never lay eyes on him again, Olivia. You are restricted from certain privileges. You will remain here, and you won't be spending time with him. You reside within my domain, and you shall abide by my regulations. For the moment, you will remain here. That is the conclusion. Olivia's expression shattered before my eyes. Her eyes brimmed with tears as she slowly shook her head. I felt the urge to speak up for her, yet deep down, I understood that it wouldn't make a difference. Her father had reached a decision. I remained frozen in disbelief, struggling to grasp the events that had just unfolded. I was astonished that this was the same man who had appeared to be a guiding figure in my life only a few months prior. The individual who had placed his trust in me, even depended on me in the workplace. In silence, I gathered my belongings and walked away. My universe seemed to be unraveling, yet I understood that I had to move on. Not after what Mr. Robinson had expressed. The journey back felt like a haze. Uncertainty clouded my mind, leaving me at a loss for thoughts and emotions. All that I had toiled for, all that I had constructed, seemed to be vanishing before my eyes in a heartbeat. As I drove into my driveway later that evening, I was met with an unexpected surprise. There she was, bathed in the soft glow of the streetlight, Olivia. She stood outside, suitcase in hand, a determined expression etched across her face. Olivia, I inquired, my voice barely rising above a whisper. What brings you to this place? She brushed away the tears that had gathered in her eyes and turned her gaze toward me. Her expression was intense. I could no longer remain there, Michael. I refused to be under his control like that. I refused to allow him to destroy what we'd built together. She inhaled deeply, the gravity of her choice lingering around her. I fled. I'm here because I desire to be with you. I adore you, and my father's opinion doesn't matter to me. I refused to return. I remained frozen, speechless for a brief moment. I was taken aback by how far she has gone. Yet, witnessing her poised there, resolute, powerful, and ready to battle for our cause, ignited a spark within me. Olivia, I began, but she cut me off. I'm not requesting that you resolve this. I'm simply requesting your presence alongside me. Kindly. In that instant, clarity struck, revealing our path forward. We had to leave this city. Her father was relentless in his pursuit to drive us apart. It was imperative that we departed. We had to begin anew, in a place distant from all that constrained us. We will depart, I declared, my tone unwavering at this moment. We'll find a place that brings us joy, a space where we can create our future together. Only you and I. Her expression became gentle, and she enveloped me in a warm embrace. You truly mean it. I truly mean it. Let's begin anew. In unison. And that's precisely what we accomplished. The following morning, we gathered our belongings, bidding farewell to the life we had known, with all its intricacies, turmoil, and sorrow. As we left the city behind, a sense of liberation washed over me for the first time in months. Unencumbered by fear, we embrace our love for one another. The uncertainty of the future loomed before us. We were uncertain about our destination and the means of our survival. Yet, one thing remained undeniable. We faced this as a united front. And that sufficed.